So on today's Card Academy lesson, we're going to be talking about a very interesting double peak control by Di Vernon. Now we previously talked about a double peak control by Ed Marlowe, but this one is the Di Vernon counterpart. Now the double peak control is an interesting idea in that you are having two cards peeked at in one motion. You're not stopping, you're not doing anything, you're straight on having a participant peek at a card, you're having another participant peek at a different card, and you're able to control the cards in that action. Now in Marlowe's, you had a very interesting way of him doing a double undercut style technique. Di Vernon added an overhand shuffle to the mix, and I'm going to show you guys a little variation on that. So let's get into it and show you exactly what it is that I'm talking about. So here is what that might look like. We have a card peeked at, in this case like this. We have the King of Spades, and then we have another card peeked at, in this case the Eight of Clubs. Those cards are lost in the middle of the deck, never to be seen ever again, and shuffled deeply into the rest of the cards. And of course, we have the Eight of Clubs control to the top, and we also have the King of Spades control to the bottom. Now, there are going to be a couple variations that I'm going to show you with this. However, this is how it originally was published. So what you would do is you would have a participant call stop as you riffled through the deck in this particular fashion, which is the standard way of having a spectator peek. So the first participant is going to call stop. They're going to peek at their card just like this. We have the Jack of Diamonds. And of course, we're going to keep our break with our pinky separating that card from the rest of the deck. Now for this, it's needed that you need to have the smallest pinky break possible. So you need to have the pinky break all the way near the bottom of the pack and pressure put with the top half of the deck. Now at this point, you're going to continue riffling up and having a different participant call stop. Where they call stop, this time, we're going to have our ring finger, which is going to be holding the break. So look at the situation we have from the right hand. We have the pinky break holding one break, and then we have the ring finger, the flesh of the ring finger, holding another break. Now the best angle for this is as follows, where you have the participant call stop and look at the cards, and the break is hidden from the rest of the eyes of the spectators. So now here's what you're going to do. You're going to come along with your right hand and you're going to transfer the breaks to your thumb. So now it's very easy because of the separations. You're going to notice that there's going to be two breaks. Now the first one is going to be undercut to the top. So you're going to grab all the cards below the lowermost break and undercut them to the top of the deck. Now at this point, what you're going to do is you're going to transfer this to an overhand grip. However, I'm still keeping the break. So right now I'm keeping that break just like that, and I'm transferring it to an overhand grip ready for an overhand style shuffle. Now at this point, as I'm overhand shuffling the cards, all I'm going to do is just come to the last card and shuffle that on top. So as I run through the last couple cards, I'm going to run through them singly, just like this. So that ensures when I get to the last card, it's just a matter of dropping that on top. Now at this point, believe it or not, you are done. You've controlled one of those peak cards to the top, and the other card is on the bottom. So one more time, one person calls stop, pinky break, another person calls stop, ring finger break, thumb, undercut one packet to the top, and then overhand shuffle while retaining the break, shuffling off all the way till you get to the last couple cards, and now one is on top and the other one is on bottom. Now this doesn't just necessarily work with the peek technique, it also works with a spread technique. So if you want, you could spread the cards starting from the back and have a participant call stop. Let's say they call stop over here. You go, great, please remember the Jack of Spades. And now in the same spread, all you're going to do is now as you spread through the cards, I've just retained a pinky break right there, separating that Jack of Spades from the rest of the cards. And it's going to be better covered because there's a little bit more sloppiness with this particular action than there is with a very neat and organized spectator peek. Now you could have another participant call stop. Let's say they call stop over here, and it's the exact same thing. As I square it up, I'm going to get a ring finger break right there, separating both halves. Now, obviously, these are exaggerated, but you get the idea. Now, at this point is going to be the exact same technique. Undercut the bottommost pile to the top, overhand shuffle the uppermost pile, running off singly until the very end. And now you've controlled one of those cards to the bottom and the other card directly to the top. Now this does work excellently with the concept of Brash's break, which is a technique we've talked about in a previous lesson where you are able to have a break, in this case with the card below. So right now you have a break below the actual card itself, and you're still able to cut that card to the top of the deck with the actual technique that we discussed in that lesson. Now with that, you're going to be able to do a riffle shuffle instead of an overhand shuffle. So that technique might look like this. One participant calls stop. In this case, they call stop on the ace of clubs. Another participant calls stop, in this case, on the nine of clubs. So the cards are cut, they're shuffled, they're mixed, and of course, in that action, we've controlled the ace of clubs to the bottom and the nine of clubs to the top. So very simply done, and all with Brash's break. Let's get into how we did that. So it's the exact same technique as before. The only difference is that now we're going to be doing that technique to control the cards. So we have the break, in this case, underneath the nine of diamonds. I'm going to leave that face up for the sake of explanation. Same thing with the six of diamonds. I'm going to leave that face up as well. We have our breaks. So we have both the pinky break and the ring finger break. And now we're going to do the exact same action as before. Undercut, the lowermost break to the top. And now here, instead of just simply grabbing the cards and overhand shuffling, we're going to carry on with the technique of Brash's break. So instead of just taking this half to the right, we're going to be putting upward pressure with the pinky. Now that upward pressure is going to make it a little bit more difficult in order to keep that card on the bottom of this packet. So what's going to happen is that that card is actually going to come along into the right packet, of which we're going to use our thumb right there to take that card and score it up with the remainder of this lowermost packet. So this is done as you are separating both piles in order to do a riffle style shuffle. Now notice the situation. We have the lowermost card, that's the card that was peaked at, and we have the uppermost card, that's now the card that's also peaked at. So we're just going to riffle off a couple cards from here, making sure that that card stays on the bottom, riffle shuffling the rest of the cards, and of course ensuring that the top card stays on top. And now we have controlled both of those cards in one simple action of a cut and a shuffle. So whether you use the actual peak technique or the actual spread technique, it's imperative that you have a small break. So the practice here is going to be in actually trying to reduce the size of the break as much as possible. So just trying to use the most minimal gap in the actual fatty portion of the ring finger and the pinky, so that when you actually carry out the action of the control, at that point it's best covered. Economy of motion, my friends. You hear me say it often, and here is a perfect example of that. When it comes to a technique like this, we're controlling both cards in one action. We're keeping both breaks just to make sure that we're not adding an additional action that's not necessary. We're having one participant call stop, we're having another participant call stop, all in the same breath, if you want to call it that. And that way, when we undercut the first packet and we control it, whether we're using the overhand or the riffle style technique, it's going to look fair, because it's going to look generally like both cards are lost in a deck. Lay people can't understand the concept of control. Yeah, when it comes to a demonstration of actual gambling, they see it and they go, whoa, that's crazy. But when it comes to multiple cards, they don't comprehend how that's possible. So when you're doing this all in one action and it looks something that they would do normally, which is an overhand style shuffle or a riffle shuffle, it looks fair. So when it comes to this particular control, you're controlling those two cards for the price of one. And I think it's a wonderful technique to add to your Magic arsenal. So I recommend using the actual spread method rather than the peak method, because when it comes to the peak method, everything has to be squared up and nice and neat. So it's a little bit harder, and you are going to have to hone in on the actual breaks a little bit better. When it comes to the spread technique, the sloppiness of the spread actually covers the breaks a little bit better, so you're going to have more coverage. But either technique works wonderfully well, and of course you could see the alternative to Marlowe's original technique that involved just two cuts. This one is a nice cut and a shuffle, and you get the cards control to the top and bottom of the deck. So that's the technique. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you guys for being members of the PigCake Card Academy, and I hope to see you on the next lesson.